This
All
is
right.
better.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay now?
I can.
All right.
What's the
Sorry
proper
about that.
pronunciation of your name?
Uh, Joni, Joni.
Joni. Okay, because on this thing it says Joan. Joni, I'm Sean.
Good to meet you, Sean.
The guy in the Facebook ad. So I usually like to start these meetings with a couple of ground rules. Number one is there is no PowerPoint. There is no sales pitch. At the end of this thing, you're not going to hear if you buy now. This is just a conversation between two guys in the construction industry. I've been in the construction industry for 30 years. There's a lot of bullshit and scams out there, and contractors have the best bullshit meters on the planet. So this conversation is to determine two things. Number one, am I full of shit or not? And number two, if I'm not, am I the guy you want to move forward into the federal market with? That's all this conversation is about. When people go through Facebook, they see a lot of advertisements, but usually they scroll past them. So I like to ask, is there something in my ad that kind of caught your eye?
Yeah. I mean, probably the fact that you're in the federal market, because I've already been thinking, government contracts. I know there's a lot of money on the table on some of those, just because, like you guys explained in your ad, there's not near the competition. The dog eat dog quite as much. So I've already been thinking that way, and that's why it kind of jumped out at me. I didn't know if, we're in a position to be able to step into that, being we're a relatively small company, but then it said something about small businesses, and so I was like, well, check it out.
Yeah, have a phone call, find out, for sure. So what have you been doing?
Well, I grew up doing like construction, like building pole barns and things like that, and houses with my dad since I was probably 14. When I was 21, I started my own construction company building pole barns. Sold that and went into buying property and developing it. So I bought some dirt work equipment, just to do roads, building pads, clearing trees out, and that kind of thing. And on my own properties, and I still do property development, but now I've started, since I've got the dirt work equipment. A couple years back started doing for other clients, so my equipment isn't sitting in between my own projects. And so now basically what I do is we do a lot of building pads. We dig basement excavation, build roads. We do forestry mulching, land clearing. We do trenching. Yeah, just you name it. Pretty much try to be a one-stop shop for any land clearing or dirt work.
Okay.
We got dump trucks. We haul rock, dirt, topsoil.
Okay, and then another question I like to ask is, did you watch the whole video, or do I need to start over and kind of give you the history? In other words, are you familiar with what happened to my brother and how GC Experts started? Yes,
I watched that.
Okay, and then did you watch any other videos?
I read the story about the one guy that I think it was it was your dad talking about this one guy that was a contractor, bid on a furnace removal, I think in California, and how that all went. I'm not sure if that was a video or if that was something I read, but that was pretty much the end of it.
Okay, well, that brings me up to speed, and I think I know where we can go from here. So I do have, I like to, well, the simple way to say it is I like to teach. And I've got a lot to say. I'm not an economist. I'm not Alan Greenspan, but I've noticed some things over the years that I think will be helpful to somebody like you.
Okay.
Our economy goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't necessarily pay attention to that, but there's a way that you find out it's going up. When it's going up, your phone starts ringing more, and you can go, okay, hey, give me a bid. All right, hey, give me a bid. All right. And then all of a sudden, things are going great, money's flowing, And when you start getting too many phone calls, what do you do to your pricing?
Yeah, it goes up a bit.
It goes up a bit. And you feel like Superman, money's going great, then all of a sudden the economy starts turning down, and you start getting less phone calls, and you're going, well, wait a minute, all my marketing was working last week, I was feeling great last week, all the money was there, and now all of a sudden I'm not getting as many phone calls. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. What's happening is people are pulling back in times of, like right now, a recession.
Mm-hmm.
These recessions are cyclical, and they're natural products of our economy. And they go up and down, up and down. I don't know how much you know about American history, but do you know the worst recession of American history?
No.
It was in 1929, and it was called the Great Depression. You can Google it.
Yeah.
What happened was the stock market crashed. The economy wasn't ready for that. Couldn't absorb the problems. 9 out of 10 people in our country became unemployed. It was the worst recession in American history. 1929, stock market crash. 9 out of 10 people out of work. The incoming president was President FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up with a plan to solve the economy problem. He called it the New Deal. And his plan was to flood the market with federal construction contracts. It was called the New Deal. You can Google it. But the idea was, we'll build roads, bridges, and dams all across the country. And because we're putting Americans back to work, we'll balance the books by saying that instead of roads, bridges, and dams being a cost, we're going to call them an asset. And therefore it balances the books because we spend all this money, we get assets, and the value of our country goes up. It literally saved the economy. And FDR, among other things, is known for saving the economy with the New Deal. It was established in 1933. You're a young guy, I don't expect you to know these things, but 10 years ago or 15 years ago, there was another recession. Do you remember it?
Yeah. 2008.
2008, 2009. The outgoing president was Bush, but in 2009, Obama came in.
Yeah.
And he was dealing with a recession across this country. People were hurting, losing their homes. And so Obama tried to do the same thing that FDR did. Do you remember what it was called?
The New Deal.
No, it was called the ARRA, American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. You can Google that.
Yeah, what Obama installed.
That's right. He put in the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. He put out on the street $150 billion of federal contracts. But if you remember from my video, I said there's only 25,000 registered federal contractors. Remember that?
Yep.
It turns out that 25,000 registered federal contractors cannot do $150 billion worth of work. That's impossible. So it turns out Obama puts $150 billion out there, but $47 billion can't be spent because there's not enough federal contractors.
Mm-hmm.
So that money was set aside to stimulate the economy, couldn't be spent because there was too much meat on the bone. Too much contracts, not enough federal contractors. That was 2009. If you remember from the video, we came on the scene in 2010.
Yes.
The GC experts. Our solution to that problem was to create more federal contractors. So that if this ever happened again, there'd be enough federal contractors to eat the meat on the bone. So flash forward 13 years, who's president now?
Yeah.
Well, you can call him Slow Joe all you want, but he just passed the Infrastructure Act. Now look, you're not a federal contractor. So
Right.
so you're sitting there like all contractors across the country going, fuck them Democrats. But I'm here to tell you that when you're a federal contractor, it's the Democrats that are spending the money.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
He just issued the Infrastructure Act.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are contractors out in this world that are smarter than you, Joni. There is.
Yeah, I agree.
And what's happening is they're riding this wave up over here, but when the economy starts going into downfall, they split off and start doing federal contracts.
Right.
And then they might go back into commercial and residential and ride this wave up, but then they split off and do federal contracts. Do you see why they're doing that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, most contractors in this country will work for between $25 and $250 an hour. Most contractors will work for that amount. But would you agree that there are some contractors in this world that are making tens of thousands of dollars an hour?
Yes.
But they're not telling you how they do it.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that tells you how to do it. You want to learn?
Sure.
All right. I'm about to teach you how contractors make tens of thousands of dollars an hour. Our federal government has a rule book. It's called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. We refer to it as the FARs, F-A-R. That rule book applies to every federal government agency, whether you're the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, National Forest Service, IRS, CIA, FBI, Army, Navy, Corps of Engineers, Marine Corps, Air Force, Environmental Protection Agency, United States Post Office. Any agency all operates under the Federal Acquisition Regulations. Okay? And all those agencies own buildings across the United States. I talked about it in the video. There's 1 million buildings across the United States. But they all operate on the FARs. You and I are going to talk about one specific FAR. FAR 13.004A. And I know you weren't expecting this, but I want you to Google that right now. FAR 13.004A.
All right. FAR 13.004A.
That's right. What's it say? Just read me the title.
Legal effective quotations.
Now stop right there. Legal effect of a quotation. Now look at me.
Yes, sir.
If you go out down the street and you give out 10 quotes, 100 quotes, or 1,000 quotes, is there anything legal associated with that quote, or is it just a quote?
It's just a quote.
That's right. But the first thing we talk about on the federal side, when we start reading the rule book associated with quotes, what's the title of it?
Legal effect.
Automatically, that should tell you it's different on the federal side than it is on the residential and commercial side, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I want you to read the first sentence of the legal effect of a quotation and stop at the period.
A quotation is not an offer and consequently cannot be accepted by the government to form a binding contract.
Stop right there. If you call me up, Joni, and you say, Sean, give me a bid to build a 200 square foot tiny house, and I sign my bid and I send it over to you and you sign it, what do we now have?
The contract.
But on the federal side, the very first sentence says that if I send them a bid for the same work, they cannot turn it into a contract. But if I send you a bid you can turn it into a contract. And that's different, right?
Yes.
Okay, now read the second sentence.
Therefore, issuance by the government of an order in response to a supplier's quotation does not establish a contract.
Now look, this is written by attorneys, it's written by Congress. Our government knows that not everybody is perfect in the government. And that even though the first rule says, hey, if we get a quote from you, we can't turn it into a contract, they're worried that someday somebody might make a mistake and take your quote and accidentally turn it into a contract. What our federal government is saying in the second sentence is that if that happens to you, don't worry about it. It's still not a contract. Isn't that what that says, now that I've explained it?
Yes.
Okay, now read the rest of the paragraph out loud.
A contract is established when the supplier accepts the offer. And that's the offer made by the government.
Negative. Just read it and I'll explain it to you.
Okay, contract is established when the supplier accepts the offer.
Contract is established when the supplier accepts the offer. Who's supplying the quote? The government needs a 200 square foot tiny house. I come along and I give them a quote. They can't turn that into a contract. It says that they have to... Yes, absolutely.
Can I ask a question? All right, so if I go back to the second sentence, it says, therefore, issuance by the government of an order in response to the supplier, which would be the contractor, right? It's quotation. So the government is now issuing an order in response to the quotation. That does not establish a contract. When they reply and issue an order, the order is an offer by the government to the supplier to buy certain supplies or services.
Stop.
Okay.
You're trying to interpret a law, okay? That's what you're trying to do right now. And what I'm telling you is that nobody on the planet can interpret that other than somebody who knows exactly what it means, okay?
Okay.
So let me explain it to you in plain English. Any bid I ever turn into the federal government, they cannot turn it into a contract. They just can't.
Right. Right.
They might make a mistake someday and do it. They might take a quote and turn it into a contract. And what our federal government is saying in that law right there is that if they do that, don't worry about it. It's still not a contract.
Yeah, I understand.
But the rest of it is how they can establish a contract. And it's that last sentence that's key. They have to offer it back to me. What that sounds like in the real world is, hey, government, here's my quote. The government has to contact me and say, will you accept this offer? They have to give it back to me to accept. Mm-hmm. That's different than the real world. And what I'm here to tell you is that when they do offer it back to me, I have 4 options. I have 4 options. Number 1 is I can accept. Number 2 is I can withdraw. Number 3 is I can negotiate. And number 4 is I can stall for more time. Now look, of these options, when they offer it back to me, what are they trying to get me to do?
Probably accept.
That's right, because they want to get it off their desk, move on to the other 10 jobs they have right behind it. They want me to accept it so that they've got a contract. But what I'm here to tell you is that I don't do that. What I do is I stall. I say, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting your call. Can I call you back in 24 to 48 hours? I just want to get them off the phone. Now I'm calling a guy like you. Hey, Joni, my name's Sean. I'm a national federal contractor. I do everything from wind tunnels, water treatment plants to kitchen renovations. I'm calling you today because our government needs a 200 square foot tiny house built. And it's my understanding you can do that type of work. So I'm going to send you over the plans and specifications. When you get the plans and specs, don't read them. Just pick up the phone and call me. I'm already familiar with the job and I'll walk you through it step by step. Then I get on the phone with you and I say, hey, Joni, I'm not asking you to bid every 2x4, every shingle or electrical outlet. What I'm asking you to do is give me a price off the cuff that if I called you up 90 days from today and said, hey, man, we got the job, that we'd be close enough to negotiate something that makes sense for both of us. Do you see how I'm taking the pressure off of you?
Yeah.
Okay, now in this hypothetical situation, give me a price. Give me any number you want to build that 200 square foot tiny house. Give it to me.
60,000.
All right, man. I bid this job for $100,000. This guy's telling me he can build it for $60,000. I call the government up and I accept the job. I make $40,000 for a couple of phone calls. Joni does all the work. Give me another scenario.
Demolition of a 5,000 square foot building.
No. Give me another scenario. Price. How much to build the tiny house?
Oh, okay, another price. Well, see, I would have to know more details because I have to know.
No. We're role playing. You just gave me the $60,000 price. Give me a different price.
Okay, 150,000.
Holy shit! I turned my bid in for $100,000, and this guy's telling me it's going to be $150,000 to build it. I call the government and I withdraw my bid. I'm sorry, we're too busy to do this work right now. And you're going to have to go on to the next guy. We'll catch you on the next one. Give me another scenario.
Okay. All right. 100,000.
Oh boy, I turned my bid in for $100,000, and this guy's telling me it's going to cost $100,000. So I call the government and I enter into negotiations. Hey, suppose I need to change my bid to $140,000, Mr. Government. What would happen next? Let's talk. Let's negotiate. Give me another scenario.
120.
Okay, $120,000. I might still negotiate, or I might withdraw. Do you see that I have all these options, and I never accept the job unless it's profitable?
Right, yes. I see that.
Okay, is there any risk to any bid I ever turn into the federal government?
No.
No, they can't turn it into a contract. I never accept the job, and that's how my guys are making tens of thousands of dollars an hour for construction contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, listen. You just experienced 10 minutes of training from a workshop that we used to do live in this office. People came in from all over the country and learned from us for 3 days how to be successful in the federal market. Okay? And over the years, I bought video equipment. Not because I knew the pandemic was coming, but because I thought it was cool that all these contractors were coming in and learning from us. So I started recording the workshops, the live workshops. Then the pandemic happened, and I couldn't bring people in the room anymore. So I went, I've got all these videos, why don't I just edit them together and put the workshop online? Would you like to see what that looks like?
How do you know about is it 3 days worth of videos, or how long are they?
It's 3 days. And what I'm asking you is, would you like to see what that looks like?
I'd be interested.
Okay, hold on just 1 second. This is part of day 1 from the workshop. This is just a video clip of what our training is.
And then put the BIG over the opportunities. Big problems equal big opportunities. If somebody needs something, and they really need it, they're desperate to get it done, you understand that's the opportunity you're looking for, the need. Okay? You focus on the need. Everything gets focused on the need. What's the need? Do you have a budget? Once I understand the need, I focus on it, I understand it, repeat it back to them. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on? Or anything else I should know? Okay, problems like that usually have a budget associated with it. Can you share that with me? You understand how we go from
So that's part of day 1. Here's part of day 2.
And then to the budget.
Something. It's my favorite word in federal construction. What did he achieve? My favorite word in federal construction. No, that's how you make money in federal construction. What's my favorite word in federal construction? Entitlement. Because once you're entitled to something, what's the only other question? How much? I love entitlement. Entitlement's the pay me motherfucker. Entitlement. Okay? The moment she hit send, he achieved entitlement. Why? He's entitled to something, and the only other question is how much. Why did he achieve entitlement? Because she would have never sent that email if she didn't agree something was different. There'd be no reason for her to send an email saying, give me a price, if she didn't agree something was different.
Here's part of day 3.
Okay?
Do you remember me saying that the rule was if there's only one bidder, and that bidder is 15% or more above the government estimate, they cannot award the contract? Why does our government, in their infinite wisdom, have that rule? Anybody?
Tax dollars money.
Protects tax dollars, right? Because Sally, what's she trying to do? Get George's job done. He needs it. It's his money. He went and asked for it to fix his fish hatchery. It's sitting on her desk. He needs it done. It's not going to get done until she finds a contractor she can award it to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So suddenly somebody turns in.
So what that looks like when you actually invest with me is this. Day 1 is 10 hours. Day 2 is 11 hours. Day 3 is 7 hours. We did it on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is how we did it when it was live. But, I mean, it's not that you couldn't just click play and go for 27 hours and not sleep. You could binge watch this. This is a little supplemental video that I made that just kind of updates things because, you know, since we made the videos live in the workshop, PPIRS, which is something I talk about in the workshop, isn't PPIRS anymore. The government changed it. It's CPARS now. So it's just a little 10-20 minute update video as to how things change over the years and just to bring everything kind of up to speed. But that's what you're investing in with me, is that 3-day workshop.
Okay.
And it's all like that 10 minutes I just gave you. As you can see in the clips I gave you, it's all very powerful content on how to succeed in the federal market. Did you happen to come across my proof page?
I don't think so.
So, you're familiar with the word indisputable?
Yes.
Okay, this is my indisputable proof page. You can't argue with me that what I'm about to show you is not true. When we were doing them live, we would have interviews with people after the workshop. Hey, what did you think over the last 3 days? So these are people saying, oh my God, this is amazing. This is Dennis of AMG. If you look at his shirt, it says AMG. This is how much contracts he's gotten, but don't believe me because this is my website. Click on this button, which takes you to a government website, usaspending.gov. This is the public watchdog that is publishing who's getting federal contracts. As you can see here, they're publishing that he got 4.2 million. But if you go back to the video, he says it's 2014 in the video. You can see that for yourself. When did he start getting federal contracts? 2014. In other words, it's indisputable. When you come down here, this is Andy of NBT. When you hit the video, he says, I'm Andy of NBT. When you click on NBT and you go look at the public watchdog site, it shows he's gotten 7.6 million in contracts. The video of the date of his video, that's when he started getting federal contracts. You scroll down, you watch the video, here's how much he got. Same thing here, same thing here. I love Kevin because Kevin, when you play his video, he says in the video, I started a year ago. In 1 year, he got $1.6 million in federal contracts. How do I know that? Because you can go to the public site, you can see that he got 1.6 million in federal awards, and you can see that he started last year. In other words, it's an indisputable proof of all these. There's over $300 million worth of federal contracts awards that I'm responsible on just that one page.
Mm-hmm.
It is indisputable.
Okay. So my question would be is I explained to you very briefly what our business is, what we do, where we come
Yep.
from. My question would be, would these government contracts be applicable to us and who we are, what we do? If it's, say, for example, out of state, I would probably have to subcontract because I'm not going to haul.
Look, Joni, if you come over to this quote-unquote dark side, I'm making my money just by making phone calls. I'm not maintaining equipment. I'm calling the Jonis of the world and making him go out there and do it. I'm not maintaining anything. I'm not worried about if Joe doesn't show up for work today or he got in a fight with his wife last night. None of that shit matters to me. You do all the work. I sit here and make a bunch of money making phone calls. Now, that's not to say if you want to keep your business the way it is and do some local federal stuff within a couple 100 miles of where you're at, sure, you might have a huge advantage over that because now you're not paying somebody else's overhead, right? But, you know, there's so much money in this thing that there's room to go around, you know. Plus, if you want to do your type of work in some other state, can that guy bullshit you on what the numbers are?
Right.
He can't because you have an advantage there. You know what it costs.
Exactly. Well, so basically, I would have to, if I wanted to subcontract these government federal contracts, then I would just have to do the legwork and find contractors in that area and subcontract. So basically, we'd go from you to me then I would go beyond that to sub it out.
That's right. It's not even from you to me. You're the prime contractor. It's your baby.
Okay, so I would be, at that point, I would be the prime contractor.
That's right.
And I would be doing what you do. Yep.
That's right. And that's what we teach, and that's how those guys are making all that money on all those federal contracts. That you hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the government, they're the ones, they send a detailed contract of the scope of the work, right? So that's what I would pass on.
Correct. You're exactly right.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. So is there no more live training anymore? It's pretty much through
there's no reason to do it anymore because whatever it turns out during the pandemic when people were watching the online version, I can start getting these phone calls. Hey, I like this better because I can hit pause and I can take my kids to school. I can come back and hit play. And oh, by the way, if you have any questions about what you just saw in the workshop, you can pause it. You can pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, Sean, this is what you just said in the workshop. Break it down for me. Explain it to me.
Right.
That's better.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what's involved? What will be involved to register with the federal government?
You just give my wife $700 and she takes care of the whole thing for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Done
What about
deal.
a contractor? What about a contractor's license?
I have done hundreds of millions of dollars of federal contracts. I have never had a license other than a driver's license.
Really? In Tennessee, I believe there's a law that if one given job is over $25,000, you have to have a contractor's license, which I'm probably going to get within the next couple months anyway. But...
Stop! You're talking about the state of Tennessee. I'm talking federal. If the state of Tennessee inspector tries to show up on a federal job, you can tell him to suck my balls and tell him to leave. He's got no jurisdiction.
Okay.
There is no federal contractor's license. You just have to be SAM registered. You give my wife $700, she gets you SAM registered. You're a federal contractor. Period. Now the work might say, look, if the work is to install a transformer, it might say in the specifications, transformer must be installed by a licensed electrician. But the company that got the job doesn't have to have that license.
Right. The contractor, the subcontractor would have to have that license.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the Jonis of the world. I put all that pressure on my subs. I'm just in it for the spread between what I sell it to the government to and what... Look, did you see that clearly what I suspect here is you didn't read the first email that I sent you. The first email...
I started to scan a little bit.
Okay, but let me explain to you what's in there. Do you know what a 3-ton air conditioner is?
Yes.
If you had to replace a 3-ton air conditioner, and I know you're not in that business, but how much do you think it would cost to install one?
So if it was just the exterior unit, or if it was the whole system, would make a difference. But probably somewhere
whole
between-
system.
Okay, whole system, probably maybe 15,000.
That's right, probably about 15,000. The first email that I sent you, if you go find it, you're going to see a federal contract award for $107,000 to install a 3-ton air conditioner. And you're also going to see my subcontractor's price, $15,000.
Mm.
Do you
Wow.
think
Yeah,
I went to Alaska to install a 3-ton air conditioner?
I doubt it.
No, I did not. I hired a local guy. He went out there. He had an HVAC license, because I'm sure in the spec it said must be installed by a certified HVAC guy. But he doesn't know I sold it to the government for $107,000. But in that email, I show the federal contract award. It's indisputable. I sold it for $107. My guy did it for $15. I get the difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's plenty of government contracts out there to bid on, I'm assuming. I mean, because always there's a shortage of contractors for federal work, so that's not a problem.
My biggest guy in my program does $30 to $40 million a year in federal contracts. 30 to 40 million. The government is issuing $1 billion a day. $1 billion a day. My biggest guy is 30, 40 million a year.
I have one question.
Go for it.
So since I would be the prime contractor, the government I'm the direct contractor for them. If there's a problem with the scope of the work and something on site that it's not done properly or something, that will then be on me. But then I can turn and hold the subcontractor responsible. But primarily, would the government come back on me?
Isn't that what happens to you in the real world anyway? Don't they hold you responsible for your work? Of course it is. We teach that in the workshop, but I will tell you one thing for sure. You can't have a problem on a federal contract that I haven't already had, and I've got all the brilliant solutions to. And oh, by the way, it's your problem until you call me. When you call me, it becomes my problem, not your problem.
Okay. Okay. So what are you offering me?
I'm not offering you. I mean, if you want the 3-day training, yeah.
Yeah. You're offering the training.
And a SAM registration. You're going to need that.
And SAM registration. But you just offered, too, that if there's a problem that I can't find a solution for, then
You're
I can call you.
I have a membership program after the workshop, but if I tried to explain that to you right now, it might make your head explode. Don't worry about it. Just go through the training first.
How much is the training?
$5,000.
Okay. All right. Let me talk it over with my partner.
Yep, talk it over, and I'll just tell you that at the end of the 3-day training, if you decide, oh my God, Sean, you're an idiot and this will never work, for any reason or no reason at all, I'll give you your money back.
Okay. All right. So if my partner wanted to do a Zoom call with you as well, I should have probably done it together with him. I didn't really think about it.
That's okay. I'm recording this. I'll send you a copy. You can hand it over to him.
Okay. Perfect. Sounds good.
Yep. GC experts, not idiots.
I'm assuming the reason you're just spreading around to other contractors is just because there's simply no way that you can handle the volume.
It has nothing to do with that. I already made my mark. Don't worry about me. I'm eating steak dinner tonight, whether you join my stuff or not, okay? I do this because I enjoy it. This, there's only so many days you can sit in your backyard next to the pool and drink beer.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
Joni.
I will,
Take care.
Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time. It was
We
awesome.
need infrastructure to back it. It's more valuable than gold, right? And they put in the books there, hey, we